You may well have joined us all season as we have been discussing the Premier League. It was a bit of a new feature for us, really, wasn't it, Geo? So we sort of gained a lot more knowledge this season, I think, certainly myself included. I left the Premier League well alone for most of the previous seasons. I'd watch a bit of Match of the Day. But anyway, as it's gone on this season, we'll be doing our Premier League previews and looking at a lot of the other teams coming up. So Geo had this concept and he said to me, why don't we do our top 11 players as a team that don't feature in the top six? Because obviously everybody would choose Lukaku anyway, wouldn't they? So we're putting together, including West Ham fans. We are doing including West Ham fans, aren't we, Gio? West Ham players, sorry.
Yeah, I've got at least one.
Have you? Yeah, I mean, I found it quite difficult, actually. I don't know whether it's bias or whatever, but I seem to want to have to shoot on some West Ham players in it. But I did genuinely think that some of the West Ham players were the best options around. Anyway, the idea being that we select from West Ham, from Wolves, from Leicester, maybe a few others as well, Gio. I don't know Gio's team. Gio doesn't know mine. I think he suspects who I might have at right back. I suspect who he has at left back. But first of all, Gio, what formation you gone for, mate?
4-2-3-1. I've gone for that. It's my favourite formation, and it was very difficult actually to choose these. I think I put in about half the team went in, no problem. Then it started putting in the other half, and it was usually a coin toss for some of the positions. It was really him or him, and but I'm happy with my 11. I think this 11 would break into the top six actually.
I would think so. Certainly, I think mine would cause attacking problems for a lot. Sorry, defensive problems for a lot of teams. I went for the 4-2-3-1 as well, largely because there's just not that many good strikers around these days. So look back to the olden days, as it were, as some might call it, or just not that long ago. And from my perspective, there were so many good strikers. We had people like Les Ferdinand playing for Queen's Park Rangers, and then playing for Newcastle. Of course, he had Shearer playing for Newcastle. Sprillier played for Newcastle, and many teams had strikers that could score 20 goals a season. Of course, Shearer played for Southampton as well. Blackburn. We had lots and lots of strikers who could score 20 goals a season. Dwight York at Aston Villa. I could go on and on, but I won't. Nowadays, not so much. I think you see a little bit of Jamie Vardy up there, maybe sort of contesting the Golden Boot, but the old established number 9, as it were, seems to be a bit of an endangered species. So that very much governs. In fact, I'd do a 4-2-3-1 and not go for the 4-4-2, just I couldn't find two good strikers. Gio, what should we start with? Goalkeeper. We've got to have the same goalkeeper, haven't we, mate?
Yeah, we'll start with the keeper. I mean, I think it's easy for us being West Ham fans. I think if there's anyone watching this that's not a West Ham fan, maybe one or two other contenders. Ben Foster has actually had a really good season. I thought he's had a fantastic season, but I'm gonna have to stick with Fabianski, aren't we?
Yeah, he's as good as anyone, mate. He's, as you say, if you're not a West Ham fan, you might not have seen all the games. You might have seen some highlights on Match of the Day and whatnot, but he's certainly won us games and drawn us games that we would have either lost or drawn respectively. He's gained us a lot of points. I do wonder, Gio, how many points he has been in value to West Ham this season. And surely that's got to be the name of the game. You know, would any of our players in our team get into a top 6 side? And what has actually been their value to their club? And certainly in Fabianski, we got somebody who is, let's be fair, we couldn't replace him for 40-50 million.
No, I completely agree. I think he would get into some of the top 6 teams. And when you look at sort of all the other keepers in the Premier League, it's hard to sort of include in the top 6. It's hard to argue if they've had a better season than Fabianski, in all honesty. This is the easiest call of the 11 for me, and it probably is for you as well.
Yeah, well, absolutely. So I was just looking, I've got distracted. I was just looking at the chat. I've got a chat open at the moment. Jazza, who's in the chat, and he's keen to get something. He wants us to wrap up quickly. He wants to go and get something to eat. So I've suggested he goes and get something to eat. Anyway, but he says shout out to the Cardiff keeper, who of course played very, very well. But we've got somebody, Kojo, and he's put Daily Blind in the any suggestion. So I'm not sure. These are Premier League players, Kojo, who are not in the top six. I'm sure there will be a few Ajax players who may get into our teams respectively. But he certainly can't get in under the rules of our silly little game here, which has started off very, very friendly. We're going to disagree now. And on right back, Gio.
Yeah, there was two for me here. There was Wan-Bissaka or Doherty over at Wolves, and I've gone for the Crystal Palace man. I think he's had a fantastic season. He can be really aggrieved he's not in the England squad for the UEFA Nations League. I think he should be in there. He's on the verges of a move to the top six, I think. If it doesn't happen this window, I'd be surprised if the next summer he's still a Crystal Palace player by the end of it. Brilliant season, barely puts a foot wrong. 1-on-1 when in terms of 1-on-1 against his wingers, he's probably the best right back in the league, I think. And going forward, he's not too shabby either, Gonzo.
No, I think with Doherty, I think if you're playing a 3-5-2, the case for his inclusion becomes more. Although I still do think my guy Pereira would get in ahead of Doherty, because I just think from an attacking perspective, he's absolutely brilliant. Wan-Bissaka is fantastic. When Crystal Palace came to ours, he really had shackled Felipe Anderson for a whole half, and then Anderson started to get the better of him. And he will go on to really, really good things. He will play for a top six club, but I've got to give it to Pereira, who I have liked for a couple of seasons now, and he came in at Leicester. They paid 17 million for him. When they signed him, I said, that's what we should have done. That's exactly the type of player we should have got in. I think he's swashbuckling. I really do. Fantastic attacking force. Portuguese international as well. Just an absolutely brilliant player, and he gets right back for me in that one. Be interested to see in the chat what everybody thinks on right back there. Clayton thinks Bissaka. Michael Elliott has said Schmeichel, obviously not as right back, but as the goalkeeper. Gio, centre half. I'm going to be straight up with you here. I've gone because I think the second one I found a little more difficult, and I didn't want to just put loads and loads of West Ham players in there, but I was almost tempted to put Diop in, but I didn't. But I have put Diop in, Gio. What about yourself?
My first one was a Newcastle player, Schär. I thought he's been one of the best centre-backs in the league this year. Vafa's done well to uncover that gem of a player. He's fantastic. Whenever I watch, Newcastle, the game they play as well, the defence is under a lot of pressure a lot of the time. But every time I watch him, he just oozes class from the back. So he was the first centre-back I picked, actually. Fantastic season for him.
Well, I almost picked another one. Lascelles almost picked him as my other centre-back. Funny enough, you say about Newcastle. And I was sort of tempted to go with Keane as well. I didn't want to pick Balbuena because I'd already picked Diop. So I went with somebody else I've sort of liked all season, and that's Willy Bolly, because I think every time I've seen him, he is an absolute brute of a defender. And I just think with Diop and Bolly there, thou shall not pass, basically. I just don't think you're getting through. But I did find the centre-backs quite a tough one. And, so I went with him in the end, mate. What about yourself?
Well, there's a lot of candidates for a centre-back, and I think they're all on a similar level, actually. You could probably list about 20, and everybody could pick two from the 20, and you can't really argue against them. Like some Maguire and that would have a shout. But I've actually gone for Bolly's teammate. I've gone for Connor Cody. I think Wolves been terrific, and he's Wolves as captain. He obviously joined them in the Championship. He's come up, and the sort of big question is, can you do it in the Premier League? Well, he's just blowing all them questions apart, actually. He's been superb in the back for Wolves, and I would argue he's one of their more important players. He's not got the name like the best of them, but he's there. He's a rock, and he's my second choice centre-back for my team of the season.
Interesting. Did not see that one coming. I think I know you've chosen as your left back. I think you tell me in a second. I think you've chosen Digne because you've spoken about him all season. I've gone for Chilwell because I just think he's improving at a rate of knots. I think he should be the England left back, and I think he's defensively good. I think he is pacey enough, although might not have absolute outright pace. But I do love the way he gets his head up. I do love the way he delivers. I do love his awareness when he's in attacking position. I love attacking fullbacks, as you'll probably see. So, yeah, I've got both the Leicester fullbacks from me. What about yourself, Gio?
Who do you think I've gone for here?
Digne.
Yeah, it is. I like Chilwell. I think Chilwell is actually the best left back, but I think Digne's had the better season. He's been class since he joined Everton, and right wingers get a scare when they play him because he's so quick and he's so direct. As soon as Everton get the ball in the opposition's hand, he's going down that left side, and you can see right wingers struggling to keep up with him. They don't want to keep up with him. They naturally don't want to track back, but this geezer just keeps going and going and going, and he must be an absolute nightmare to play against as a right winger. And he's scored a couple of important goals for Everton outside the box. It's funny actually, because it's sort of like how Leighton Baines started dipping. It was like, how do you replace Leighton Baines? They've gone and got the exact same thing. He's basically Leighton Baines. He's the exact same person as Leighton Baines. Fantastic left back. Yeah, really, really good. And another duo like that, and the bigger clubs come calling. I wouldn't be surprised if one of the Spanish giants start peeling their eyes over at him.
Yeah, and as I understand it, I think Manchester City possibly got their eyes on Chilwell, but they got their eyes on everybody. It just depends if they're going to be allowed to spend any money. Bearing in mind their inquiry for financial irregularities from UEFA, which is ironic, really. Either UEFA or FIFA scrutinising anybody for financial irregularities is, as I say, strangely ironic. Jazz has clearly not got anything to eat yet, Gio, because he suggested what did he suggest? Lewis Dunk as centre back, so I think he needs to go and have something to eat. Okay, moving on to midfield. Obviously, we go with the two defensive midfielders, or the two sitting in front of the back four. I'll start you off with a Neves, Gio. I don't think I really have to say anything about Neves. Really, what an outstanding season at Wolves. He was great last season, the Championship. Don't need to say anymore, do I?
No, my first choice one was Declan Rice. He was the first guy I wrote down for centre for defensive mid. He's had a few bumps in the season, but not very many. You can count them on one hand. And I think he's, like you said at the very start, would any of these players get into the top six, he would walk into half of the top, at least half top six. Spurs were crying out for a player like him throughout the season. Man, you could have done with him. Arsenal at times could have done with him, even though they've got good players in that position, but they've not really been performing. Rice has been doing it week in, week out, and he's one of the first names I wrote down, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I was tempted to put him in, but I can't have too many West Ham players in the team, and I've got to leave room for Perez, obviously. I've got, next to Neves, I've got Decore. Decent player. Decent player.
I actually think Capoue is the better Watford midfielder, but Decore gets all the plaudits for some reason. But whenever I watch Watford, Capoue is the one I think is the better of the two.
I think it's because his athleticism stands out, and he seems to be able to do everything. Funny enough, I thought he had a bad cup. I was going to say I thought he had a bad cup final. Who didn't? In that sense, with that thrashing, whatever it was, 15-0 to Manchester City or whatever. But I do think he's a really, really good player. Looking at, I know you like your stats statistically. Watford are a lot better when he's in the team. Quite frankly, I'm surprised he's still there. But I think you could say that about any of these players that either of us are going to be selecting here. The whole point is they're possibly good enough to play for top six teams and would certainly be coveted by some of the continental sides, as you just referred to, with Digne there. But yeah, I've gone for Decore. And yourself?
Well, you've gone for the apprentice, and I'm going for the master. I went for Moutinho. I think he's been wonderful for Wolves. I think he's teaching Neves how you control the tempo of a game. He's just, you can see why he's played at some of the big European teams, Moutinho, and he was a bit of an eye-opener when he went to Wolves in the first place. But I'll tell you something, he's one of the reasons they're doing as well as they can, because you watch that guy and you can't help but wish West Ham had someone like him in midfield. He just runs the game. Absolutely superb. So I've gone for Moutinho in there.
Well, with Moutinho and Rice, you better have some pace ahead of that, Gio. I've got to say, because quite frankly, I'm out muscling you, mate. I'm running past you as things stand with my team. Left wing, it's Wilfried Zaha, the best player, best attacking player outside of the top six. He gets a bad rap. for diving, I guess. Well, I don't guess he does get a bad rep for diving, but in terms of pure talent, and not flattering to deceive. He's not someone that just has loads of tricks and doesn't deliver. He delivers goals. He delivers assists. Crikey, he got 3 assists in the last game of the season. Fast. He's strong. He's not a little lad. I think he's 5'11", 6 foot. Absolutely brilliant player. I would have him. I think he would get into any team, probably aside from Man United, because they wouldn't want to have the embarrassment of having to re-sign him for a second time. But wouldn't look out of place in any side. Wilfried Zaha.
I've got him as well, not so much on my left wing, but he's on my right wing, but he sort of gets in there. I think actually, maybe bar Raheem Sterling, I'm struggling to think of another player who is worth as much points to his team, to any team in the Premier League, is Zaha. Without Zaha, when this came about Zaha leaving, everybody straight away went, Crystal Palace is going down. And that's because they probably are without Zaha, unless they conjured up something clever in the transfer window. They're going to be in serious danger next season. You can't really say it with any other club. You can take any player out of Leicester. Leicester will still be fine. Pick any player out of Wolves. They'll still be all right. You take Zaha out of Palace, they're bang in trouble. And, you can't get as much goals and assists as he does and plays such an important part. Teams double up on him because the rest of the team, compared to Zaha, is so ineffective. And he still produces all these stats and stuff. When you play Palace, you've got to mark one player. But yeah, he still hits double figures, and that's how good he is. So Zaha's in my 11 as well, Gonzo.
Yeah, well, just an absolutely fantastic player. I want to do things a little bit differently, if you don't mind, because I just think possibly the most controversial bit from my end, I'd like to is the number 10, which is the drum roll, the finale there. So we'll jump straight to right wing, if you don't mind. Obviously, you've got Zaha there, so you will say left wing. So who is your other winger, please, mate?
I'm a big fan of this guy, Richarlison. I've got no doubt about it. I know he's been playing right wing for Everton towards the end of the season, but he did it on the left for Watford, and he's only on the right, so because Bernard can't switch over. Whereas Richarlison is good enough to play it on both wings. That's the difference. He's fantastic. Whenever I watch Everton, he's such a danger, and he's a pest to play against as well. He's hard working. He nudges defenders. He's good in the air. He's one of the best players in the air, in my opinion, in the league. You put the ball in the box and that guy will go for it. He's fantastic on the ground. He can be a little bit too greedy. Sometimes there'll be a player in a better position, he'll shoot and stuff. But you know what? He doesn't score goals if you keep passing all the time. He cost 50 million. Everybody thought, 50 million. I'll tell you what, everybody's now thinking, well, that was a bit cheap, wasn't it? Because this guy, he's now in the Brazilian squad. He's now in the Brazil squad for Copa America. And for you to do that at a club outside the top 6 in the Premier League, I mean, Felipe Anderson's not in it, for example. You've got to have done something right. And I think he is just fantastic. And I'm still a bit bitter that he's gone to Everton and West Ham didn't go get him, because he's one of my favourite players in the Premier League. So Richarlison, one of the first names I wrote down on my sheet of paper as well, Gonzo.
Okay. Who's my right winger, Geo?
I'm trying to quickly jog through all the names in the Premier League, actually. And none are jumping out. I know you like some players. I know you like Nathan Redmond, for example, but I don't think you would have included him in the non-top 6 team. Actually, I know. Have you gone for Deulofeu?
I have gone for Deulofeu. I knew you know my footballing taste. Yes, I absolutely have. Wonderful player. Not quite the same stature, but he actually plays with the swagger of Cristiano Ronaldo. He sort of runs in a similar style, has a similar technique. I absolutely love the player. There's been several times and we've been linked to him. You mentioned that you had regret and a bit of jealousy that we'd not got him for Richarlison. Every time we're linked with Deulofeu, I think, go on, just go and do it. He's my kind of winger. He scores goals. He could go left. He could go right. He's pacey. And I think the guy is fantastic. I was going to say, I don't know why Barcelona let him go. I guess we do, because they've got some wonderful players, and they signed Dembele for 130 million. So they were bound to let him go, weren't they? But an absolutely brilliant player. So it's Gerard Deulofeu who gets mine. I'm going to move to centre forward now, Geo. And this was tough, mate. This was tough for all the reasons I said. I didn't want to put Vardy in, I've got to say, because I'm trying to build a team here that will function, as it were. And I think the style of play and everything has got to be just so for Jamie Vardy. And I'm not sure that would be my style of play. But the players weren't jumping out at me for this one. So in the end, I've actually gone for Jimenez at Wolves. What about yourself?
Same. This one did jump out for me. I think, funny enough, I actually think Jota had a better end to the season than Jimenez, but Jimenez has been doing it from day one in the Premier League this season, right up to the last. I thought Vardy was quiet in spells. He was my second choice, but he dipped too often for me. Jimenez, even when he doesn't score, he's done something. He might have hit the woodwork. He's maybe got an assist, but he's always contributing to Wolves. And the season, I don't think the season had even ended and Wolves had signed him. And 30 million is not cheap, but I'll tell you what, it is cheap for what you're getting. Jimenez is easy choice for me, this one, Gonzo.
Yeah, absolutely. He's he was a standout without there being anyone standout. As I say, there's normally somebody from outside the top six that in previous seasons scored 25 goals, not quite done that. So you just had to sort of have a little look around. I'm just going to throw out some other names. Actually, no, I'm not, because one of them you might have actually as your number 10, which we'll get in a second. But Loftus-Cheek's been mentioned in positions we've already discussed. And why are we talking about Drinkwater? I don't know. Jazz has said Fraser. Of course, I think Fraser's not a bad shout. Fraser got 14 assists in the Premier League.
I think he got injured for quite a bit. I mean, I considered him because he was up at the top of the stats table for assists, for chances created. He's been linked to Arsenal in this window. And I consider David Brooks as well, his teammate. I thought both of them have had really good season. But the problem is also it's just their team's form as well. Bournemouth were awful for the last quarter or third of the season, so it's very difficult to look at a team who's been that poor. I mean, you don't even consider Huddersfield or Cardiff players, do you? Because you just think, well, they've had a rubbish season. You're talking about lack of a goal scorer. Mitrovic is banged in about 15. We haven't even considered him, and it's because he's got the Fulham cloud above his head a little bit. So I think Fraser, good player, good season, just a little bit unlucky.
Yeah, I think and the same goes for Wilson there with that sort of rationale and that sort of thinking there. Number 10, Geo. Let's have your number 10, please, mate.
James Maddison. I think he came with a big reputation as being the best player in the Championship, perhaps 25 million quid, big price tag. But I think he's answered a lot of the questions. He's got assists, he's got goals. Sometimes you watch him and he's a little bit frustrating to watch because he does, he's maybe got a little bit of a selfish streak in him, or he makes his crossing will be poor or something, but he's got ability. And I think if you take him out of Leicester's team, I don't think they would have been in relegation trouble or that, but they would have dropped a few points. I think he's really walked in there, and bearing in mind he's sort of taken over Mahrez's role to an extent as the main creator. And I'll tell you something, it's a lot of pressure for a young player, many different elements on top of his head, and I think he's done really, really well. And I think he'll be even better next season as well. So James Maddison for me.
Yeah, I obviously consider, there's some very, very obvious examples, like Sigurdsson, like Bernard, as we like to call him, and of course Maddison himself. But when picking this team, as we discussed earlier, it was about, would you fit in at a bigger team? How would you play at a bigger team? And I looked at it, and as decent as Maddison is, I just couldn't see Liverpool signing him. I just couldn't see Man City signing him. Any of those, I couldn't see Chelsea signing him. I just thought that Maddison is going to have a very, very good Premier League career. And you know what, mate, I might be wrong. And someone will snip this and put it up on social media of me saying a top six club won't sign Maddison. I just couldn't see it. I just don't see him. I don't think he's as good as Eriksen, for instance. I just saw him at that level, and I didn't want to pick Sigurdsson either because he's all right, but I just think I've got to have the front three. Got to be mobile. The three behind the one, they've got to be mobile. And I find him a little bit statuesque. And he's good at free kicks, and has a good range of passing. I like Bernard, but he took a long time to get going. So I've done something a little bit controversial here, and I've moved a wide player central, and I've put Felipe Anderson in at number 10 because I don't know why he's not played there this season. Number one, I know him well. Number two, he's fast. Number three, he can pass. He's got a lovely range of passing. He can see everything. He can release those other players around him. And number four, I do think he's big enough to play, good enough to play for a top 6 club. That's my choice, mate.
That's cheating.
Well, there you go. So what?
I can see why you've done it.
I'm the manager. Yeah. Well, yeah, there you go. I mean, there were others to play in there, but the style I want to play, which is fast pace, attack, and attack quickly. You know, I'm not tapping it around like Barcelona here. That's not how I'm playing the game. So you can read out. Read out your whole team for me and everybody watching now, please, Gio.
Fabianski in goal. My back for Wan-Bissaka, Schär, Connor Cody, and Lucas Digne. Moutinho and Rice in my midfield with Zaha, Maddison, and Richarlison playing behind Jimenez. That is my team of the season, non-top 6, and they would get into the top 6.
Listen, mate, I totally agree. I think both our teams are absolutely fantastic. By the way, I've got a friend in Clayton. Bless him. He's always a friend on the forum and on the videos here. He agrees with me about putting Anderson there. Actually, Clayton's got some very good views on who we should sign. I've got a video coming up for that soon. Who should? I think I'll entitle it who West Ham should really sign. Maybe that'll be the title. Something like that. We won't do all this other stuff that everybody's heard of. My team, Fabianski, Pereira, Diop, Bolly, Chilwell, Decore, Neves, Delafeu, Anderson, Zaha, with Jimenez up front.
We agree on quite a lot, to be fair, even though we don't pick the same personnel. You've gone Bolly, I've gone Cody, you've got Neves, I've got Moutinho.
Yeah.
It's a very similar team. We've also both got Jimenez, we've both got Zaha, we've both got Fabianski, so it's not too different, actually.
No, I think what you're seeing as well now is the strength of the Premier League, and particularly the money.
The strength of the teams in the top half outside the top 6.
Yeah, because of the money, because so many of those teams, ourselves included, we'll whinge, and rightly so, I think, because we could do with another big spend up like we had in the last one in terms of West Ham fans. We'll whinge that we haven't spent much money, but actually in terms of wages and in terms of buying those players, we are going to have more money than a team like Frankfurt, who we mentioned in the other show, of course. And there now you're seeing the strength of the Premier League, because so many of the teams in the Premier League are in the top 20 richest clubs in Europe, and we're certainly one of them. And that's why Wolves can have players like Neves and sign Moutinho. That's why they can get a player on loan in Jimenez and then say, oh, do you know what, we're going to make that permanent for 30 million. That's why Bournemouth can buy a fullback at 20 million. There's so many players now who would probably, even 10 years ago, would be plying their trade at Sevilla or Valencia and other teams that were doing Schalke, other teams that were doing well in Europe, and now actually Premier League teams can afford to have them. And just when we were discussing Watford earlier, I said Delafeu, you said Capoue, and Decore there, and you think you've got Pereira left. Well, Pereira's come from Juventus. That's a really good midfield. That's a very, very good midfield, a continental standard UEFA Cup, Europa Cup standard midfield. There's so many good players. Anyone that you've discussed that you haven't mentioned that just missed out, Gio?
There's quite a lot of them, actually. I think David Brooks is my main one. I think Brooks was. If Zaha didn't exist, Brooks would have been in my 11, actually. And if you would do sort of like young player of the year, he'd come runner up to Rice. I think he's a fantastic talent, David Brooks. I'm looking forward to watching him. And also, I'm looking forward to seeing Lewis Cook next season, if he's fit again at Bournemouth, because they're starting to create a strong English young spine there with Brooks. Now, I know Fraser's Scottish, but Brooks, Fraser, Cook, Nathan Ake I think Nathan Ake was superb, actually. Despite Bournemouth's horrible bit part season, he looked really good. He looked like a centre-back from Chelsea. Lloyd Kelly, if he can fit in, they've just signed for £13 million as well. They're building something there. It's just about if they can all click. But they're a team to watch, Bournemouth, I think. They're sort of becoming the club to go to if you're a championship club. If you're in the championship, you want to go to Bournemouth because you know you're going to play. And that's a big, big thing. And they're going to start to get to the point where there's a good player in the championship. They're going to be able to pick them up just like that. Because their rivals for Lloyd Kelly, apparently, was Liverpool. They were looking at him to sort of be Robertson's backup. Now, this guy's going, I don't want to be backup to Andy Robertson. I want to go to Bournemouth because I'm going to play there week in, week out. That's a fantastic position they put themselves in, actually, to be able to have the pick of the bunch from that league. Tell you what, they're building something. It won't be cheap, but it could be fruitful. And these players, they can then sell for a vast profit eventually, easily.
I totally agree with what you're saying. I do think they may well have dropped one with Solanke, the sign of Solanke there. I guess time will tell on that. Just in terms of mine, Lanzini would get into my team with a season behind him. So we'll do this again next season. Maybe we even do it at the halfway point of next season as well. So I think it's a good fun thing to do.
Well, I like doing these videos, doing more. I mean, I want to do one before the season, if you like, of players we're looking forward to watching, etc. Because like I said, Lewis Cook, didn't see him injured, but terrific talent, I think. And I think he got injured just as he was sort of on the verge of being considered for England, actually. I think that's how good he was playing. So, yeah, look, I like doing these videos with you.
Yeah, myself as well. There's a couple I'd like to discuss, particularly one in particular at Norwich. Andy Walsh in the chat, thank you very much, my friend. In the chat, or if you're watching this video retrospectively, there's no reason. Let's have your teams. There's no reason that you can't just write them down. Don't need to do a graphic or anything. Just write them down with space between each one, and let's see your teams. Let's see what you think. They're all going to be good players. Nobody is. No, apart from Jazza, where's he gone? Who did he pick? Dunk or something earlier? As I say, he's not had his pot noodle yet. You need to sort that out. We've got an awful lot coming up. Before we go, well, actually, we won't go into any detail on that. But what we must talk about, and what Geo is about to tell you about, is our 24-hour extravaganza charity stream for those who do not sleep, for vampires. Geo, tell us about that, mate.
Mate, it's getting close, isn't it? This time next week we will be 2 hours away, so we will have been sitting live for 22 hours. I mean, I will not be looking. I'm not even look fresh right now. I'll be looking a lot worse this time next week. Yeah, but we're going live 5 o'clock on Friday. We're going live, and we're going to be live right through to 5 o'clock on Saturday. I've been working the last 2 days or so. I've been working on scheduling all the guests. It's not easy because obviously everybody wants the same time and stuff, don't they? So you've got to sort of try and move people about. But I've nearly done it. What we'll be doing over the next few days is on social media. If you're not on Twitter, you can still see our Twitter page. So you can click the link is in below, Hammers_chat. You'll be able to see all the stuff put up. But we'll put up a schedule of when each guest is on, etc. We're really looking forward to it. I've got some fantastic prizes for the raffle. The top prize is 2 hospitality tickets to a home match of your choice, subject to availability, obviously. I mean, right now, I've got in front of me is the programme from the Man United game, last ever game at Upton Park, signed by Brooken, Redknapp, and Hurst. So that's one of the prizes. It's not even the best prize, but it's still a terrific prize. £5 per raffle entry. The link's below. Do you know how much? You won't know, actually. We're trying to raise £500. Do you know how much we've raised right now?
£350.
420 quid.
Nice.
We've nearly done our target. We're not even live yet. So thank you to everybody so far. We'll smash the target. We're going to have a really good time on the stream. It's going to be chaos, but you know what? It's going to be fun chaos. So yeah, hopefully we'll see a lot of our viewers over there on Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening.
Yeah, well, listen, join in. There's going to be a lot of time for chatting. There's going to be a lot of downtime. There's going to be a lot of quiet time, as well as a lot of loud cheekiness time. I'll have a rummage around in the old cupboard. I might be able to auction that off or something like that. I'll have a look for some prizes in there as well. Geo has worked ridiculously hard putting all this together. It should be interesting. Just, dip in and out, come in and out as you want. One other thing I would just request everybody watching this, please do. Obviously we do have 2 channels. You're obviously subscribed anyway because you're watching this. Please make sure next to the subscribe button there is a bell. Number 1, that will allow us to notify you when we're about to do a video and to give you a little bit of notice. And also when we put out these questionnaires to ask you what content you want to see, it just enables you to reply to us very, very quickly, very, very easily. Enjoy the rest of your bank holiday weekend. Geo, anything planned?
No, I'm watching the football, but I'm working on Monday because I need to take Friday off for this live stream, don't I?
Of course you do. Absolutely. That's preparation, folks. Preparation, and preparation.